So the Houston Rockets might be changing their tune on Alperen Sengun as the starting center. I'm going to tell you why this is a game changer. Tap in, enjoy.
This is something I know.
And, you know, we haven't even mentioned the guy who might be the breakout year of them all, you know, the big man down low.
Sengun.
I know based on how Ime plays and, you know, his penchant for defense, I mean, we've seen him with the center as kind of like the defensive enforcer, rebounder, hub, but the ball's running on the wing and he's got a lot of wing players. Is there a home in the I don't want to say Ime ecosystem, but in the Ime universe, is there a home for a post-up big man who gets buckets and at any point could just kind of take over a game?
I think so. I think when you have, and I think the Rockets they made this shift internally where they're going to allow their young players to explore their games and they're not going to put them in boxes. So you have a guy in Sengun who, you know, isn't regarded as a good defender right now, but that doesn't mean that, you know, he's going to, like, they're going to surround him with good defenders to try and make things easier on him. And just because of how talented he's offensively, you have to find a way to make that work, right? So there are some schools of thought that want to see Jabari get some time as a small ball five just because of his size and his ability to switch on defense and Ime's propensity for guys that can guard different positions and space the floor. But at the same time, Jabari is not physically ready to be a long-term option at center, whereas Sengun is further along in that department. So I think for Houston, in order for them to find out what they really have, you still need time. You still need a training camp. You still need a preseason. You still need, you know, some weeks and months into the regular season to figure out exactly what he has at his disposal. But right now, I still think there's definitely a home for Sengun in Houston. They have to find a way to make it work because in the last regime under Steven Silas, they didn't get the best out of him at times. They didn't put him in the best situation at times. Now you're coming into a whole new coaching staff. The thinking is that they'll be able to kind of pick up the pieces of the last 2 years and really push this thing along forward.
So if you're a regular on this channel, you already know my stances on Alperen Sengun, right? I think the Rockets have misused him along with a lot of our other young players over the past 2 years. And it's kind of refreshing to hear somebody that's close to the team say that they're pivoting. They're making a shift internally, which the only difference between the previous regime and the new regime we have now is the coaching, right? So basically, this is what Ime say. Because Stone, we've heard over the past few years how they felt about Alp, never really used them. And it's kind of funny the words Kelly uses there. How do you go from an internal shift to stop boxing players in, right? Like you went from, we're going to box our players into a specific role, which is stuff that I've told y'all. I've told y'all that these guys were being misused because of just how rigid the Coach Silas was with his offensive game plan and all his schemes. Everything was rigid, trying to force round pegs into square holes, whatever the term is for that. But, you know, I've really spoken on this over the years about how the players weren't being maximized, whether on defense or on offense. And Alp, to me, was probably the most egregious of the group when it came to this. And to hear that Coach Udoka is actually open and is being true to his word, what he said in that press conference, that he's not a coach that just does what he does because he has to do it. He's a coach that looks at the talent that he has on the team and then adjusts based on that talent. And if you're a basketball watcher, I don't give a damn at what level, you can tell like Alperen Sengun is special, right? This is no secret. So it's refreshing to hear that from the coaching staff. And if you think about that last year's team, the only time we got to see Alperen Sengun really kind of let loose was when KPJ got hurt. And, you know what I mean? This is no shot at KPJ. I know how y'all get with the weird kind of beefs with players. But when KPJ was hurt, due to the fact that it was less offensive creation on the team, one less shot maker on the team, it forced Steven Silas to be able to use Alperen Sengun as kind of a semi-hub. They didn't go full Sengun like Jokic hub, but they kind of went halfway through, and it was good. It was good to watch. Now, the wins weren't there, but to me, that's a different reason I'm going to talk about later. But it was good to watch him, and it was kind of eye-opening during some of the stretches of those games to see how effective Alp was. And if y'all remember, I made a video actually discussing the stretch of games where Alp was being used as the hub. It wasn't, like I said, nothing crazy like a Sabonis usage or touches or Jokic usage or touches, but the team actually leaned into Alp as the center hub for about 8 games. And in that 8-game stretch, he went crazy. But overall, it was about, I think KPJ missed roughly 20 games during a stretch lasting from about January 13th down to February 28th, where he was out, almost a 2-month stretch. And in that time, the first month in January, you know, they went really full into Alp, and Jalen was struggling during that month. And then the second month, it kind of faded off a little bit. In that stretch, it was about 19 games because Alp missed one of those games. He averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's 16, 9, and 6 on 54% field goal shooting, 50% from 3 on low volume, and 70% from the free throw line. And in that 8-game stretch I'm talking about, Alp went crazy. He was playing like an all-star, like a first-team all-star, first selection type of center in the NBA. And this was just, like I said, 8 games is low volume, but you still look at it. Dude was averaging 20, 10, and 7. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists in that 8-game stretch from January 13th to January 26th. And in that stretch, they only won 1 game. And there was a reason why. There's a reason why Alp was playing so good, but they only won 1 game. And the reason was Jabari Smith Jr. So one of the key things that I saw during that stretch of games while Sengun was balling out and the team was still not converting it to wins is, one, KPJ was missed, right? As much as people dislike Kevin Porter Jr., he was a big part of the reason the Rockets had any success, because when he played good, we played good. The second reason was Jabari Smith Jr. Now, Jabari, y'all know he had a terrible rookie year, especially in the first half of the season. He picked it up after the All-Star break, but for the most part, during a majority of his rookie year, he was the reason that we were able to draft Amen Thompson, right? He really got us an Amen Thompson. Shout out to Jabari for getting us Amen. But, I mean, he really struggled, and this was the case during that stretch when Kevin Porter went down and Alp was balling. And even though Alp was putting up these great numbers, like we remember the Lakers game where he dropped 35, Jabari really had some really rough games throughout that stretch. And that's usually around the time where young guys hit that wall, that January, because you're going past 30, 40 games, past what you're used to in college and high school. So he was struggling bad. And you could look at the numbers to show this. If I go to Cleaning the Glass and I'm looking at the Rockets lineups right now, the best lineups that the Rockets have usually feature Alperen Sengun. And the best lineup they had was one that featured Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Kenyon Martin, Tari, and Alp. So that 5-man lineup had the highest net rating for the team, plus 27, with 128.9 points per possession on offense. So they were balling, they were scoring. The EFG for that lineup is 65%, which is nuts. Defensively, they were killing it, 101.9 points per possession. Now, this is not just small amounts. This is in 159 possessions. This was a real thing. 159 possessions of this. And you would think that, okay, Tari should probably be starting. I advocated for that because I didn't think Jabari was ready. But NBA politics, blah, 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 tanking team, they didn't care. That's going to be an interesting thing this year, though. Y'all sleeping on Tari Eason. But that was one of our better lineups, especially with Alp leading that. Now, if you look at another one of our better lineups with featuring Sengun, most of them do feature Alperen Sengun, was the one featuring Daisha Nix, shout out to Nix, Eric Gordon, Kenyon Martin, Jabari. So there's a lineup with Jabari and Alp there, but it's offset by having Eric Gordon in there with Nix instead of Kevin Porter and Jalen Green. So and to me, the reason you're seeing that being more of a fitting lineup is because in that lineup, it's more role players and Alp being the central offensive creator. With Eric Gordon and Alp had low-key good pick and roll. They had low-key good pick and roll. But for the most part, most of the lineups that feature Alp and Jabari were trash. They were trash. And if you look at some of the box scores, Jabari just really played bad in those games. Like he really, really was dragging down the team on a lot of those games. And you could see the impact of this when you take Jabari off the court. If you filter the lineups where Alp's on the court and Jabari's off the court, and this is for the entire season. Y'all check this out. The entire season in 1,064 possessions. That's damn near half a season. When Sengun was on the court and Jabari was off the court, the Rockets were a plus 7.5. In 1,064 possessions, the team would have been probably a 40-something win team just with that alone. Just with that alone. And obviously the number one being the lineup I said before, the KPJ, Jalen Green, KJ, Tari Eason, and Sengun. Second best one, Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, Kenya Martin Jr., Tari Eason, and Alperen Sengun. So I want you guys to think about this pattern. Think about this pattern. Think about what you're looking at. And you can tell what Kelly was saying towards the end of that interview, that the Rockets feel like they could surround him with good defenders. You know why? Go look at the numbers. I just told you, when they put Tari and KJ next to him as the forwards and wings, 101 defensive net rating, right? 101 defensive points per possession given up to the other team, which is elite. That would be a top 5 defense in the NBA. The numbers are there, and I appreciate a coach that's able to do his investigation, look at the film, look at the numbers to know that if I can put good defenders around a talented player with deficiencies and put players in position to be successful, what are we doing? Like, what were we doing? What were we doing? This is really, really, like, it's a game changer, bro. This is a big deal for the Rockets because I feel like this type of forward thinking, and this is what I've been saying the whole time, is like, try to maximize every single player on the team so we can see what we have before we start trading these guys away, sending them off to other teams. You know, all the trade this guy, let's slow down. We haven't been able to rightfully assess the talent that we had given the circumstances of the past. But now this season, to me, this is why I'm not going to hang anybody based on what the win-loss records is, unless it's something egregious like 20 games or something like that, or 25 games. Hey, if y'all touch 30, cool. You know what I mean? We're just trying to see what we have. Who are the stars? Who are the guys? Who are the dogs? Who are the players that we can rely on going forward? And I definitely think that Alperen Sengun has shown beyond a reasonable doubt that he's one of them. Look at the lineups that he's good with. Tari and KJ. What is that? Those are wings. You got Dylan Brooks coming in. What does that look like? You know what I mean? With Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet assisting, with Jalen Green improving on that side of the court. But the biggest question for all this is Jabari. Jabari, what are you going to do, bruh? It's on you. He is going to be one of the biggest determinant of whether the Rockets have success early or not. It's going to be how Jabari's game translates into a second year. So it's going to be on him. Jalen has shown us when he's shown us. Alp has shown us when he showed us. We've seen Tari show us that he probably deserves to get that spot, but we know how the things go. Jabari's going to get every opportunity to show beyond a reasonable doubt that he doesn't deserve it. So I personally believe that he's going to take it this year. It's going to be on him though. But if Jabari hits as a player with Alp's talent, with Jalen's talent, with Fred and Dylan, it's a game changer. This year is going to be the Jabari show us year. Like, you got to show us something, brother. You got to show us something. And shout out to Coach Udoka. Shout out to Coach Udoka for being forward thinking. The Rockets are in great hands. That internal shift is just Coach Udoka. We already know what it is. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think that this year is going to be the year? And I really do appreciate the fact that we are going to get to see our guys being put in position to show their full talents. So is this something you want to see? Are you guys still not sold on Alpy as a center? Let me know in the comments and in the chat. Appreciate y'all boys. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop and gonna keep dropping that fire.